Birdhouse Dynasty Show, and tonight's rookie quarterback rankings video, we are going to discuss the rookies for the 2025 quarterback class, as well as some historical data for the last 4 years, going back through the draft classes and getting into, first of all, the higher end. So like the top 50 quarterbacks who may or may not have hit, and then some later round quarterback evaluations as so far as like third rounders and beyond, to see how well they have performed so well in the last 4 years. So we're going back to 2021, that class, and we'll dig into those numbers, the Brock Purdy's, the Skylar Thompsons. Yes, we will discuss tonight if it is worth the late round draft picks, and especially if we can use that information for this year's draft class, because there are quite a few quarterbacks who you may or may not have available to you in the fourth rounds of your rookie drafts coming up. So, without further ado, let's roll out the carpet for the top quarterback in the 2025 class, and that would be Cam Ward from the University of Miami. As an FSU fan, I have no ill will towards Cam Ward, the individual, but the fact that he shattered Miami's passing records for single season, I give credit where credit is due. The dude threw for over 4,000 yards, 39 touchdowns, just 7 picks. Also added 4 touchdowns on the ground this past season after transferring from Washington State, where he had played a couple of seasons. Prior to that, he had been an Incarnate Word. So this is a dude who's been well traveled. He followed the path of a few other quarterbacks in this draft, and these guys from this class are the last of the remaining quarterbacks who may or may not have gotten an extra season because of COVID. So you'll see down later we have Tyler Shough from Louisville. The dude started in college back in 2018 and now has finally finished up his college career. So Cam Ward followed a similar path. Like I said, he started at Incarnate Word, then went to Washington State the previous couple seasons, did well, and now blew up at the U and is now looking at being the 101 in the actual NFL draft, going to the Tennessee Titans. And that's a little ironic because my favorite comp for Cam Ward actually is Titans legend Steve McNair. Now, McNair was a quarterback out of Little Alcorn State back in 1990. I did not look this up before the show, but it was late 90s, okay? Because I know that he started the Super Bowl for them in 99, and that was probably his second or third season, but I know also that he sat for at least 1 year, maybe 2 years, McNair, before they turned the reins over to him. And the reason I comp Ward to McNair is his leadership. That was the greatest quality of Steve McNair. And I believe that leadership is what is the main thing that the Titans are looking for here. Now, fantasy-wise, I don't love Tennessee as a landing spot. Dude's going to have Calvin Ridley and frickin' Treylon Burks to throw to. Chig there, but I'm not kidding when I say that's laughable. So here's the thing also. if Cam Ward was in last year's class, I would have him ranked 7th at quarterback. I'd have Penix ahead of him, McCarthy ahead of him, obviously Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, so, and then Bo Nix, of course. So, it is what it is. It's a weaker class, all right, but it's not as weak as like 2022's class. 2022 was the weakest class. Like I said, we went back and looked at just the previous 4 classes because I think you want to see what trends are developing in the NFL. We could have gone back 10 years and seen over the long haul, but let's see what teams are doing, right now with their picks, okay? Because this is going to be an interesting year with all the talent at the running back position, yet you have this opposite direction of teams valuing the running back position. And then you've got these okay but not great quarterbacks, and teams still need quarterbacks. There's teams out there, not only Tennessee, but Cleveland, yeah, they signed Joe Flacco, but that's not their long-term answer. The Giants, yeah, they signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, but again, that's not their long-term answer. Pittsburgh's still looking for a quarterback. The Saints now have a problem with Derek Carr, and is Justin Fields the answer long-term in New York for the Jets? Probably not. And so you have at least 6 teams right there that we know are looking at taking a quarterback possibly in the first round. So recently, Jalen Milroe was invited to the NFL draft, and we're going to get to him shortly. But at least we know right now Cam Ward is the 101, very likely, and he'll be going to the Tennessee Titans. What they decide to do after that, I don't know. I mean, hopefully they get him a receiver or 2. That's all I got to say, because Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears are probably fine for their backfield. I mean, maybe they'll grab a running back later, but I wouldn't count on it. They need some receivers for this dude, and hopefully they get them for him. So we'll move on from the 101, which was no surprise to anyone. But now we'll go to my second quarterback, and when I get to my second quarterback here, I just want to remind you that just because I have him ranked second doesn't mean that you have to draft him second overall. And I think you know what I'm getting at here, but maybe not. So we'll go ahead and bring him up here. And how many out there can guess? Anybody in the chat? Not yet. Okay. So we'll bring it up here for you. And that would be, yes, Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss. I have him as my personal second quarterback. Now, of course, the next one will be Shedeur Sanders, but that's the argument here. Jackson Dart, Shedeur Sanders. Sanders is quite the polarizing prospect at this moment. I see Sanders probably dropping to the 9. He's either going to go to the Saints or the Steelers, in my opinion. Maybe he gets past them and falls even further. But Jackson Dart has just done too much this offseason, this draft season so far, to not be pushed up the board. From progressing all 3 seasons at Ole Miss after starting his career at USC with Lane Kiffin, then transferring to Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin, every year his stats got better. And he finished his last season there with 4,200 yards, 29 touchdowns with just, I believe, 6 interceptions it was. Yes, 6 interceptions. He also runs pretty well. He He ran for over 1,500 yards at Ole Miss. I think he had 7 or 8 touchdowns last season. Regardless, the point being, he is able to run. Not a top end scrambler. He's not Michael Vick or Anthony Richardson or whatever, but Justin Herbert. Okay, so he can get out of the pocket and make plays. The question on him is, of course, he was in Lane Kiffin's system, which is more of a one read type system, and can he pick up a professional playbook or not? Now, last year we had Jaden Daniels who had the same questions, right? And obviously that didn't matter because he was dedicated to his craft. Now, Jackson Dart impressed many at the Senior Bowl, impressed again at the NFL Combine. So this guy is taking his NFL career seriously. He's not brushing off reporters or acting arrogant and telling people that he's going to turn around whatever franchise he goes to, like Shedeur. So that's where I come in and placing Jackson Dart at my number 2 spot. It's really just as simple as caring about your profession and what's going to happen in the future, not just being arrogant, as simple as that, and assuming that you're just going to take over. That was the same problem with Caleb Williams last year. Okay. Meanwhile, Jaden Daniels is sitting there for 50, 60, 70 hours a week on some AI headset watching defenses that he's going to play in the upcoming week. All right. Not just assume that things are going to be given to him. Like Caleb Williams, he expected the team that drafted him to give him part ownership to the team. Like it's not possible to do that. And for number 2, again, and it just showed the arrogance. And that's where I see it going with Shedeur Sanders. And I haven't even mentioned Shedeur's father in this because that really has nothing to do with it. Deion's not going to be on the field with him. Okay. Deion's not the one running routes and going to catch the ball from him. All right. He's not going to be on the sideline coaching him. It really is irrelevant. So I'm going to take things at face value. And from what I've seen this off season, I'm leaning Jackson Dart. I'm sorry. If I'm a NFL franchise, I think that he's someone who is wanting to get better. Shedeur Sanders already thinks he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL the way he talks. So that's just the way it looks to me. And if you see it any differently, please tell me. But here we go. We'll bring him up here. This is my QB3, Shedeur Sanders. And so Shedeur, obviously, he put up good numbers, started his career at Jackson State with his dad, Deion, as his coach. Finished up the final year throwing to Travis Hunter, who won the Heisman. He finished with over 4,000 yards, 37 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. The key here, though, for Dart that worries me is the sack rate. He led the nation in dropbacks per sacks, and that's something that translates over to the NFL as it did last year with Caleb Williams. And so that's somewhere where I see it possibly struggling. The one benefit of Jackson Dart's, say what you want about Lane Kiffin's system, but it got Jackson Dart to get the ball out quickly. And that's what you have to do at the NFL level. Shedeur is a very accurate quarterback. I don't want to throw too much shade here on Shedeur. He can be and will be an NFL quarterback. It's just a matter of whether or not he can start getting the ball out quicker. He's going to need to do that and remain accurate like he is. Many comps for Shedeur Sanders are a little lower than he probably thinks. A lot of people see him more of a Geno Smith, Jared Goff type quarterback, which is still definitely successful NFL quarterback. So again, Shador can be successful. I think if the Saints or the Steelers grab him, he will start some games, if not all the games this season for them. Um, and Pittsburgh would be a decent landing spot. They've got DK and George Pickens right now. New Orleans, they've got Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed coming back from injury. They don't have terrible talent on offense either. But the key is, can he get the ball out? Well, if he goes to Pittsburgh, he's going to have to deal with Arthur Smith's offensive system. In New Orleans, it actually might be better for him with Kellen Moore and the way he's developed some quarterbacks. Shador is kind of similar to the way Dak Prescott plays over in Dallas. So Kellen Moore led Dak to some good quality seasons there at the offensive helm in Dallas. And so I think Shador has the potential there. And I mean, if Dart gets picked ahead of them in the NFL draft, I mean, we could be looking at 3 top 10 quarterbacks in our rookie drafts. So that would only benefit us as dynasty players if both Dart and Shador get good draft capital. So it's not like I'm hoping poorly upon the kid. I mean, honestly, I loved watching Deion when I was young, and I mean, I think what Deion's doing in college is actually pretty good. He's got a high graduation rate for his players. He's a leader. He's teaching kids to be men, and I just don't know that it all got across to his son, not the way that he's been acting. And early on in the draft process, they were acting like they were going to be able to pick which team Shador was going to end up going to, and now recently they've just been kind of backing off on that and saying that he'll play for anybody. So I think they're realizing a little bit of their mistakes, and so I think that Shador may have learned from his mistakes. We'll see here, but for now, I'm going to lean Jackson Dart. That's all I've got to say about that. Now, next up, we've got another polarizing prospect, and that would be out of Alabama, Mr. Jalen Milroe. And Milroe is polarizing not because of his accuracy. In fact, quite the opposite. His polarizing thing here is his running ability. Now, Milroe at Alabama, of course, where Jalen Hurts went for most of his career until transferring to Oklahoma for his final season. Jalen Milroe is very similar to Jalen Hurts. Hurts stayed that last year and developed as a passer a little better. He was much better at throwing the ball at Oklahoma than he had been at Alabama. And I think Milroe may have helped his pro stock if he had stayed another season at Alabama. But regardless, he didn't, and he's now in the NFL draft. And you can see his numbers from last season: 2,800 yards, 16 touchdowns, 11 picks through the air. Nothing too great, but on the ground, 750 yards and 20 touchdowns on the ground for Jalen Milroe. So, as I mentioned, the main thing here that we're looking at for Jalen Milroe is his wheels. And we all love running quarterbacks. I mean, look at Justin Fields. Definitely not a great NFL quarterback, but he has been awesome whenever he's playing for fantasy. And so Milroe is somebody who, again, got invited to the NFL Combine, and now we're just waiting to see where he actually gets. He got invited to the NFL draft, and so they're expecting him to be a first-round pick. They don't want to invite somebody and have the drama of him sitting there. So maybe they're thinking somebody up top, like Cleveland or the Giants, will trade back into the first round and grab him near the end. You do that, and you gain that extra fifth year that you can have him under contract, and so that would benefit somebody like Milroe, who may not get much action in his rookie season, but going forward would get some looks similar again to what Jalen Hurts had his rookie season, where he just started the last, I think it was 4 games in December for the Eagles, and he put up points right away. And it was because he could run, and Milroe is a similar talent there. But again, he's not great throwing the ball. He's basically like more like Anthony Richardson light. Okay. Richardson's got a cannon, but inaccurate. And Milroe is only in the 20th percentile for accuracy. And so that is a great similarity between him and Anthony Richardson. You just get a discount version of Anthony Richardson here. Milroe likely will go somewhere around the 204 to 304-ish. Of course, it kind of depends on his draft capital. If he actually gets picked in the first round, then that'll be on the higher side. Maybe even higher than that then if he goes in the first round. But if he goes and falls to the second or third round, like Malik Willis's massive fall was a couple of years ago, then you could see Milroe falling to the late second or third round of our rookie drafts come this May. So there you have it, our top 4 quarterbacks. Again, we have Cam Ward, Jackson Dart from Ole Miss, Shedeur Sanders from Colorado, and Jalen Milroe at 4 from Alabama. Now is where we have the big cutoff. So all 4 of those guys could very well, or should very well, get starting opportunities come this 2025 season. After that, we have about 5 quarterbacks here who are looking like career backups, okay? But that doesn't mean that they're useless. Oh no. With the injuries piling up at the quarterback position over the last few years and the addition of the 17th game, now you have 18 weeks that the teams have to navigate, and quarterbacks just haven't been staying as healthy. I mean, how many backup quarterbacks got starts this last season? I mean, 2 years ago, I won a championship with Easton Stick at the helm, and I was going to start C.J. Beathard, but I had Sam Howell. Those were my 2 quarterbacks in the championship. I mean, it's just, even though the NFL rules are trying to keep quarterbacks healthy, the fact is the defenders are just bigger, faster, and stronger right now, and it's creating more injuries for the quarterbacks. So what I wanted to do, I did a little historical data, and I went back to through the 24, 23, 22, and 2021 classes, and I just looked at quarterbacks picked in rounds 2 through 7. Okay, now obviously first round quarterbacks get plenty of starts and have plenty of action. All of the first round quarterbacks have had, other than Trey Lance, through those last Trey Lance and then last year J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix, all of the quarterbacks going back to 2021 that were drafted in the first round have at least 10 double-digit starts on their resume, okay? Now, McCarthy and Penix get a pass on that. Penix likely, unless he totally pulls a Trey Lance, Penix will very well likely get to that 10 double-digit starts this upcoming season, as will McCarthy if he does become the starter full-time this season, which is the way it's looking. I don't think Rodgers is going there anymore. So we're looking at McCarthy being the full-time starter for the Vikings. And so the only one that didn't hit in that regard was Trey Lance. I mean, even Zach Wilson had 21 starts with double-digit points. Even Mac Jones. Mac Jones had 32 starts. Now, he had a couple last year as Jacksonville's backup behind the injured Trevor Lawrence. So he's at 32. I mean, if I run down the list, 2021 class, Mac Jones 32, Justin Fields 37, Trey Lance just those 2 starts in double digits. Zach Wilson at 21, Trevor Lawrence at 45. That was the 21 class. The 2022 class, notoriously awful. But Kenny Pickett, only first-round quarterback that year, still had 19 double-digit starts. Then you go to the 23 class. We got Anthony Richardson. He's already made 10 double-digit starts. C.J. Stroud with 25 and Bryce Young with 16. Then we go to last year's class, and of course, McCarthy and Penix haven't gotten there yet, but Bo Nix with 15, Drake May with 11, Jaden Daniels with 14, and Caleb Williams with 12 double-digit starts. Now, when we go deeper, and from that I mean just second round to seventh round quarterbacks, it's very few and far between for quarterbacks that have double-digit starts on their resume. Going back to 2021, we have 1 out of 5 quarterbacks that were drafted in the later rounds. Davis Mills for Houston. He, in 2 years playing, he had 18 double-digit starts. Then we go to the 2022 class, where Sam Howell was drafted in the 5th round. He had 12 double-digit starts, and of course, Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, with 32 double-digit starts now on his resume, awaiting the big fat contract from the Niners. So that year we had that was the awful 2022 class, mind you. We had Desmond Ridder also in that class with 11. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 quarterbacks drafted in rounds 2 through 7. None in round 2. They were actually all rounds 3 through 7. We had 3 quarterbacks out of the 8 get double-digit scoring starts. Then in 2023, we had a few more quarterbacks drafted, and so we had, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 quarterbacks drafted in rounds 2 through 7. Will Levis was drafted with the first pick of the second round by the Tennessee Titans, who now are looking to move on from him. But regardless, he still has put up 12 double-digit starts. So he has basically returned value. I mean, if you picked Will Levis with the, early second round pick that was his draft capital, he's pretty much performed as best as you could have imagined. I mean, Hendon Hooker hasn't done anything, and he was getting picked pretty close to where Will Levis was. And then you have like Jake Haener, no starts. Stetson Bennett, no starts. Clayton Tune from Arizona, no starts. Dorian Thompson-Robinson with 1 double-digit starts. He's started many games, but only 1 has actually been playable. Sean Clifford, Jalen Hall, Tanner Mackey with 2 double-digit starts, and Max Duggan. So in that year, we have 2 guys out of 11 in the 23 class. And then, of course, last year, we didn't have any quarterbacks drafted in rounds 2 through 4. But once they started picking them in round 5, they picked 5 quarterbacks in rounds 5 through 7. We had Spencer Rattler get 4 double-digit starts, and Joe Milton getting that 1 start at the end of the year, which ruined the Patriots' hopes for the number 1 overall pick and got them a 5th rounder in 27 out of it, because they moved him to Dallas, and so now he's Dak's backup. Got New England an extra pick. They didn't really need him, so that's what they decided to do with Milton. What does this historical data tell us? Okay, so again, we've listed the top 4 guys who are all likely to go in rounds 1, and if Milroe falls to round 2, we'll say that range. Then we have the next 5 guys, and we'll start them off with, let's see here. Let me get it going back into, thanks to Draft Buzz here, using their data for this episode. Now, remind you guys, if you haven't already, if you like the content here, please drop a like and subscribe. We've got some great things coming up here. We're going to do a wall-to-wall coverage next week, but tomorrow night especially, we've got DD Fantasy in the Birdhouse with Shane Manila, who's on Mannequin Chill, as well as his own show, Shane Says, and then John Bauer, host of Dynasty Theory as well. Both guys from the DD Fantasy umbrella. Great content all week long on their channel, and now they're bringing it to us in the Birdhouse. We're going to get into a 4-round mock draft with Shane and John tomorrow evening, and that should be a lot of fun, so stay tuned for that tomorrow night. But back to the quarterbacks for tonight. We're going to start it off with Quinn Ewers. Now, these 5 quarterbacks that I'm going to talk about, I don't know, however you want to rank them. I guess I like 1 or 2 of them more than the others, but Quinn Ewers probably will be the one that gets drafted first. So we'll talk a little bit about him right now. Quinn Ewers, of course, led the Texas Longhorns last season. He held off Arch Manning for most of the season. There were a couple of times where Arch got in and he did some running plays, but Ewers held on to his job, threw for 3,400 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions for the Longhorns. Had an okay season. He's just 6'2", 214, not very overwhelming stature there. He's just not somebody who is going to be able to be a full-time starter in the NFL. All right. Barring injury, he's probably not going to get many starts. Now, depending on where he goes, like if he goes to Cleveland, I could see them using Flacco as the bridge quarterback to maybe bring Ewers aboard. Again, he's probably the one that will get drafted the highest. I think he'll get drafted somewhere by the 3rd or 4th round. Could go around 2, I don't know. But I'm not in love with the guy. He is a career backup to me. And so that's where I'd have him at 5 for now. Then after Quinn Ewers, we have Kyle McCord. This is the guy I like. Kyle McCord is a gunslinger, and he threw for 4,700 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 12 picks for the Syracuse Orange last season. Of course, he had been the quarterback for the Ohio State Buckeyes prior to last season. He basically was told he wasn't going to be the starter, and they were bringing Will Howard aboard, who I'll get to in a second here. But McCord is just that gunslinger that can come in as a backup quarterback, Nick Mullins style, in the right offense and just sling it. That is why I like Kyle McCord. If you watched any Syracuse games this season, you saw he was throwing it 40, 50 times a week. He's 6'3", 218, so not like he's in between. He's not a monster 6'5", 240 type quarterback. He's not Big Ben, but he's also not a shrimp here either. And so I like Kyle McCord to be able to come in, and if he's got to play 1 week, he can put up some fantasy numbers. If he's got to play for 4 weeks because the quarterback's got a high ankle sprain or something, he could come in and do that as well. So he's got the experience from being at Ohio State and then going over to Syracuse. I like quarterbacks now that have played in multiple systems. It shows that they can pick up different systems. Like the college playbook is not as big as what a pro quarterback has to deal with, and the playbooks in the NFL. So I think that will help Kyle McCord out. Again, though, probably just a career backup. All right. Next up, we'll go over to Will Howard, who got skipped over there. Okay, here's Will Howard, of course, of the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. They had lost to Oregon earlier in the year, but were able to avenge that and pull out the national championship. Of course, Howard had a pretty talented team around him with Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson at running back. He had, um, you know, Carnell Tate, Mecca Ibuka at wide receiver, as well as Jeremiah Smith, the outstanding freshman. So I think that's kind of what is hurting Will Howard. He stands 6'4", 236, so good size. He can run. He put up good numbers at K-State, just, got more in the limelight, but playing for the Buckeyes. And last year, 4,000 yards. Of course, he had the extra couple of games from the playoffs, 35 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So he knows how to play. But again, he's not an elite upper tier quarterback. Again, likely a career backup that could see a little more in the right system. I just don't. I didn't see enough to put him into like the Bo Nix level. Okay, so he's probably going to be a guy that falls to the third or fourth round as well, and is a solid backup for a team. I think that the guys that I've talked about so far, Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord, and Will Howard, all three of those guys could definitely be their team's backup quarterbacks right away. Some of these guys come in and they're stuck as the third stringer, but these three dudes that I've talked about so far, they can all come in and be a backup right away in the NFL. All right, next up, we've got two more that I want to mention, and we'll start with Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. And Dylan Gabriel, I mean, numbers don't lie. This guy, granted, he took advantage of the COVID exception, and he started his career at UCF, Central Florida, and he threw for well over 3,000 yards all seasons at UCF, almost 30 touchdowns every year, then did the same at Oregon last season, and he ended up with the career high for touchdown passes in NCAA history, with 155 touchdown throws. Now, he only stands 5'11", and is 205. He can run a little, but, unless he's in the exact right system for him, I mean, Drew Brees wasn't very big. I don't know that he was much. He might have been listed higher than 5'11", but I don't know that he actually was. So there's ways to make it work. I mean, look, Bryce Young looks like he's getting things down. But again, Dylan Gabriel, somebody who is a strong leader, much like these other guys, Will Howard, Kyle McCord. They're all good leaders, as is Dylan Gabriel here. So Gabriel's somebody who could go to a team with, a veteran coach. I'm thinking like Pete Carroll, something like that. He could go there and actually step up and end up playing. It's just, the size is concerning. Quarterback, you want your guys to be taller, and so they can throw it over the linemen. When you got a guy that's only 5'11", like the linemen have to create throwing lanes, especially for them. So that's where I'm looking at Dylan Gabriel, why I have him ranked slightly below the other dudes as backup quarterbacks. All right. And then finally, last guy I want to mention here is Tyler Shough from Louisville. And this guy's been moving up the boards a lot. Okay. Tyler Shough, much like Jackson Dart, he came and showed up well at the Senior Bowl, then had a solid combine. So Tyler Shough started at trying to remember where he was before Louisville. Let me bring it up here. Because I had it. I was looking at it before I came on here, and now I forgot. He started out at Texas Tech. No, he started out at Oregon, actually, and was a backup there. Then went to Texas Tech. Then went to Louisville. Now, this guy took full advantage of the COVID year. This guy is 25 years old right now, so a little bit older, a lot older. But all of that helps his case for being a backup quarterback right away in the NFL. Look at his size, 6'5", 219. I mean, well-traveled, those systems. Again, Oregon, Texas Tech, and Louisville. So solid stats, nothing too crazy. Isn't the greatest runner, but he's a little mobile. And so I think this guy, I mean, the rumblings are he might be a top 50 pick. So you could see him go on day 2 and become, for sure, a backup quarterback then. In the right system and situation, could push for a starting job. All right. So those are the 5 dudes that I wanted to talk about that are quite possibly backup quarterbacks right away, and making them worthwhile picks in the 4th round of your upcoming rookie drafts. Now, one guy I wanted to mention that you may be looking at, and that would be Curtis Rourke out of Indiana. Now, Curtis Rourke transferred from a MAC school, Ohio, to Indiana. Indiana, of course, got their new head coach this last season. I'm forgetting his name. But he brought in a ton of transfers through the portal, and that's what helped lead Indiana to their best season ever. And it was Curtis Rourke at the helm. And this guy, let me bring him up. There we go. Name's Curtis Rourke. This dude played on a torn ACL all season. He tore it in August and just played through it the whole season. Now, I don't know if you've ever torn your ACL. I haven't, but I've had knee issues, and that's just incredible. I give the guy all the credit in the world, but he wasn't able to do anything at the Senior Bowl, wasn't able to do anything at the NFL Combine. So NFL teams are just going off of what film they have, and so it's going to be hard. I don't know if he'll get drafted or not, but I'm sure some team will bring him in. I just don't know if he'll be able to be a backup quarterback right away. And so for those reasons, I would probably avoid drafting him, and don't get too excited about the numbers and everything, because he's somebody who may not be worth it. Again, we're using that historical data so that we can find guys that will hit for you. That's the whole point of it. Anybody that gets a start that you picked in the 4th round, that immediately makes that 4th round pick worthwhile. Okay? Any 3rd or 4th round picks that get just one start in double digits for you. Now, a quarterback, obviously, you'd like to see 15 to 20 points. The data I was using was just getting into double digits. But if you're using one of these guys as a spot start, if they just at least get into double digits for you, that's probably at least worthwhile, because, I mean, if you're starting them, you're not expecting them to be your leading scorer for the week either. Okay, you're just really starting them because they're a quarterback and they're going to be touching the ball every snap, whereas a running back isn't and a wide receiver definitely isn't. So that's why you'd still flex the quarterback in the super flex spot. But like I said here, if we go over the last 4 years, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11, 16, and then 8 more, so that's 24, and 4 more, so 29. We've had 29 quarterbacks picked in rounds 2 through 7 over the last 4 years. 29 quarterbacks. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks get you 6 out of the 29 quarterbacks have gotten you double digit starts in the NFL. So that's 20%. That's 1 out of 5. Okay. So I named off 5 guys that I think are backup quarterbacks. That means that if average stays the same, one out of those 5 guys, okay, after 2 years, one of those 5 guys should get you 10 double digit starts in the NFL. So that means one of these guys, whether it's Kyle McCord, Dylan Gabriel, Tyler Shook, Kyle, or Will Howard, or Quinn Ewers, one of those 5 guys is going to probably be worth the dart throw, if not more. Okay, in the 2022 class that looked putrid with Kenny Pickett being the top guy, we had 3 guys, Brock Purdy, Sam Howell, and Desmond Ridder, all picked in rounds 3 or later, get double-digit starts. So those were all dudes that you were able to grab. I know Desmond Ridder went earlier than that because Atlanta had absolutely nobody at quarterback. So even though he got picked in the 3rd round, he was going higher than that. And that was just us pushing him up the board because the draft class was so terrible, and we were at quarterback, and we were just praying for somebody to make it. And so Desmond Ridder kind of knew was going to get his opportunity there. And so he got picked higher than some of these other guys that have been picked in those late rounds. But that's where I'm at, and I wanted to share that with you. It was just something I thought was worthwhile. If you have any thoughts, please leave them in the comments section. Any questions, you can always go to buymeacoffee.com, buymeacoffee.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show, and shoot me a coffee there. You can also join the Patreon. The Patreon's getting going. We've had a lot of trades thrown in there lately, and so a lot of questions can be answered in our Patreon. Right now, it's just going for $3 a month. $3 a month, people. That is not that much. All right, $3 will get you access to my rookie rankings, also my dynasty rankings, and more importantly, just access to me where I can answer questions, and you can get in with the community. Birdhouse community. We're growing. We're up to 104 subscribers. Hopefully we'll get some more eyeballs tomorrow night with the folks from DD Fantasy joining in. And so I just want to thank you for joining tonight. Hopefully you got something out of it and it helps you in your upcoming rookie drafts with the quarterback position. And with that, I want to remind you all to make sure you never stop working.